Okay, so we welcome you to another episode of Learning Stories. Learning Stories is a show where we profile guests that have really unique stories, and each guest profiled in this series has a story to share about how they acquired a unique set of skills related to their profession. Um, and in the process, I hope to uncover a new definition of learning as narrated, conceptualized, and imagined by the guest in our show. Today's guest is a very dear friend, actually a childhood friend. We went to school together, and he's a computer engineer. He went to school to study engineering, but he's an actor by profession. He's known for his roles in shows like Imperfect. I've got his and in Sanjivani as Dr. Rahil Shekhar,
Yeah.
which aired from 2019 to 2020, and he's done a lot of ad films, and he's also acted and produced short films. I'm gonna put links to all these ad films and short films and his highly entertaining YouTube channel in the show notes, so you can access all of that. And today's show is going to be a really fun conversation. And honestly, we're gonna get to know Kunal better. He's got a lot of fans around the world that may be interested in this conversation. So hopefully, Kunal, I what I really want to get started with, Kunal, I spent some time looking at all your work before we had this chat, and it's just so fascinating to see how you've evolved as an actor. You're very. What's interesting is you're actually um, a person that's grown up in the digital age, so you're very flexible. So you do traditional acting roles, but you're also experimenting on YouTube with different forms of medium. I remember you putting out a prompt asking your viewers to give you prompts, and you would try putting out videos related to that. So just thinking about how the pandemic has affected you, honestly, let's backtrack a little. Kunal, just tell me where you were born, and give us like a backstory of where was Kunal born, and what was it like growing up for you.
All right. First thing, Abhishek, let me tell you, great intro. I know you. I know you can write that down and give it to me so that now I can use that for all my future PR work. I only want to use like that. That's the best thing I've ever heard. But at the ripe old age of like 1 year, my parents were like, this isn't working out. Let's just take him abroad. Let's export him. So that's what they did. They took me and my brother in cargo, and we went to the Middle East. We actually didn't go in cargo. We went. I'm assuming economic. But yeah, it was a weird uh, setting to be in. I know I don't remember any of it, but I can imagine like my family just to all of a sudden relocate to the Middle East from India was weird. I remember this because initially there's some memories that I have that we didn't exactly understand how the dynamics different because number one, people are so different, right?
Mhm.
Over there and here. In India, everything works by jugaad, and then there's professionalism in certain countries. So it doesn't work that way. But yeah, I'm saying this because growing up, I got so used to that in Bahrain, right? So I grew up there, like from the age of 1, and till I was 18, I was there. So my entire schooling, which wasn't, I did my schooling under an Indian board, CBSE. I'm not one
Mhm.
of those bright ICSE students. Sorry, but yeah, I'm not one of those bright ICSE students. But yeah, CBSE. That's what I did, and I got so used to this culture of like knowing what you want to do what you want to do. And the good thing is that I was blessed. I still am blessed with like very, very understanding and like very, very. I can't really find the words to say it, but like my parents have been very supportive of whatever I've done. And honestly, something I've noticed is most of the parents from back home. I think you could agree as well, right, Abhishek? Like, I think most of our families over there understood that these people will choose their own paths and let them do what they want to do.
True.
Because
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure like how many had very strict parents, but at the same time, if their child really wanted to do something, they would be okay with it.
True.
Like my
Yeah.
parents were thrilled when I told them I wanted to be an engineer because I genuinely did want to be an engineer. I wanted, like, I was very interested in games and level design and whatnot. And I just thought, you know what, computer science is the way to go. I was very interested in tech. I still am. So I did that, and then I realized that this is not at all what I had in mind. Because first of all, when I came back to India and engineering courses here,
Yeah.
they are very outdated. They teach you stuff that is not all related to what you will be using.
No, but
Maybe a little bit of core and basics, but I feel like the vetting period is really what matters in companies when you join, right? So uh, I don't know. It's like you work all that for a degree, and that's what counts. So I'm not sure. In the process of learning, I fell out of it, and
sure.
I
And
joined a dramatics club on the side.
like,
So that was catalyst of
but
me
you
realizing
know,
college.
Kunal, just to pause over there was something I wanted to delve into further with regards to what you told me about your background, and this is something I relate to a lot. Growing up in Bahrain, though we can have really supportive parents, sometimes in our social circles there is a lot of pressure to subscribe to certain ideas of what being an ideal student is, right? And
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of
That.
our friends, did take up careers in engineering and professions like accountants, doctors. And I think this is often people think of somebody that's lived abroad. Often when your parents live in another country, they expect you to live up to the standards and take up opportunities that maybe they may have not had access to. And I look back at our experience in school, and
Yeah.
I wish there was more encouragement for other sorts of careers, in terms of the performing arts or
True.
sports.
True.
You think that, I'm thinking about your exposure to the performing arts. What was that like at school? And was it mainly you watching shows on the side, watching movies on the side? I mean, how did the interest in I don't know. I know you were passionate about gaming because that's something you talk about a lot in your, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how that interest in films and acting, how did that develop in school? Were there any conversations or films you saw that got that, spark ignited for you?
So I'll tell you one thing. In school, right? Firstly, a little bit background. My family, or my mostly my mom, I would say, and my dad. My mom loves watching new movies or shows and whatnot, and that is a habit that she's had since like I was a child. So because of her, I was exposed to a lot of these films and shows that like were on TV or latest movies you had to watch. Like we went to theater a lot. So I think
Nice.
at a very young age that I watched a lot of movies. And my habit, I had two major reasons in school. Um, Actually three. So number one was I'm not sure in the school that I went to initially. We used to have every Saturday we used to have an assembly, and you used to have a skit,
Mm,
right? Like every section used to perform a skit. And I used to watch it and be fascinated. I'm like, no, 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 I want to do that.
mm,
I don't care what it is. I want to do that. So my first skit, I still remember, I played a young Mahatma Gandhi, which was really weird because I thought I don't fit the part because in our heads, Mahatma Gandhi is the guy on the notes. And I look
yeah.
at him and I'm like, I don't like. I forgot that he had a young side where he had like a head full of hair and he
Yeah.
was young. Because for us, there's this one image of him, right? So yeah, that was fun, and it was like I remember my part in that was just um, like touching and untouchable. Like I felt like that was a very heavy thing, but I didn't process that as a child. But I realized that was a pretty good start, I would say.
Mm,
And number two, I like entertaining people by mimicking or miming our sirs and teachers
mm,
because I felt like that entertained people.
sure.
And I didn't really know how to gel with people. I didn't know how to speak to people. So the only thing else I had and I could make friends with was like, hey, dude, Kunal's that guy. He can do this professor very well. Oh, he can do this teacher very well. Hey, show them, show them. So I guess that's what um, made me realize that, hey, man, I like being in other people's shoes. I get some certain validation, which is great. But at the same
Yes.
time, I genuinely like it. And the third, I would say the most important thing is competitive spirit. Is when we had those weird 10 days talent fest and
Yeah.
whatnot and school contests and whatnot. We used to have plays and actually inter-school festivals were only limited to sports. They weren't. I don't think there were many cultural events that we had in the school fest for,
Mm.
like competitions for.
True. Yeah.
But in our school itself, we used to have like play competitions and whatnot. So that's where I was like, hey, as a way to win, I'll try out acting as well.
Yeah.
So, because I'm like, sports I can't. Like legit, I wasn't physically fit at all in school. Um, I I'd like to think that I am now, but who knows? Maybe those guys are even more so now. But like, I knew that sports was a closed door for me, so I said, you know what, creative arts is the only option where I can get a medal and show off at home. So yeah, that's how it went. And eventually, I realized that I joined all these things for something else, but um, the love that I had for the performing arts just started from there. So
Nice.
yeah,
And that's really fascinating, Kunal. When I listen to you, I think about how, and you said a couple of really important things there. One was the influence of your mother and your family. And, we often don't realize the unconscious influence of the people we grow up with. The fact that your parents were so passionate about cinema, sort of pushed down onto you in some indirect sort of way. And then also the influence of school and that sort of environment on you, that, those little incidents where you were watching a skit or you got an opportunity to be in another character's role sort of ignited that passion for acting in general. But that's something that a lot of people don't think about, these unconscious influences on your thinking growing up in a certain setting. And what I really like about what you said about the first role you played, which was Mahatma Gandhi, you said that you got into the shoes, and I don't know, I feel like I was probably in the audience watching that, because I have a distinct memory of you being in that role. Maybe I was in the audience, but I don't know. But I think what's fascinating about acting is that for a few moments you can be in someone else's shoes and
yeah,
experience their emotions and their life. And I think that is part of just being human, the idea of engaging with the other person's emotions, but also being empathetic to different situations in each other's lives, right? So that's really fascinating. Now, what I wanted to transition into, Kunal, is, so you're done with school in Bahrain, and I'm curious about how you moved into university, and what was Kunal like at university, and what were some of the things you were interested in, and what did you study at university? Where did you go to university? You don't have to give names of institutions, but just what subject did you study, and what were some of the things you were interested in as a student?
yeah. So like I said, like I was very interested in computers and tech and whatnot. And in my plus two, which is the 11th and 12th grade, I took computer science, and I got like 98 in boards. So that was
Wow.
like very telling. Like I kind of dug my own grave there, where I was like, my parents were like, "Well, you got 98. You're smart. Go to computer science only. Like, why try anything else in engineering?" And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like, and I didn't even think of being an actor at that point in time, because it was a pipe dream, right? Like, we were in Bahrain. There was no film industry there,
Yeah.
like film industry that I could be a part of, and I did not learn Arabic or what. So I was like, there is no point of this, and let me just chase the dream that is practical,
Mm.
which is computers. And like this seemed very doable, and I went to India. And first few months, I was actually, for the first few months, I was not very open. I was very reserved, because it was a very new setting for me. Like, I think anyone who's had their entire life from like uh kindergarten to 12th grade in Bahrain, and then come to India all of a sudden, and they're like, "Yeah, this is your home now." I think
Mm.
for the first few months they'll just be a little reserved, because they're trying to figure out how things are. Like, especially for me, because I'm not very extrovert. Um, like I can sit behind a screen and talk all I want, but in person I'll just be like, where's a corner? Where can I go and sit and just observe? I just like doing that.
Mhm.
And I shit you not, I will tell you, um, I still think that a lot of my classmates didn't know that I was in their section in
Mm.
college, because I just kept to myself. Nobody really knew. I
Mm.
know for a fact that the first time I spoke to my entire class as myself was in the last year, like final fourth year, because I was doing my final play and I told all of them to come.
Oh.
And surprisingly, they all did, which was very nice of them. But I think that's when they realized that, oh, this guy's in our section. Shit, how do we not know this? So yeah, I was very reserved in college. I just didn't know what to say or do, and I feel like the reason that was because I didn't know what was happening. Like I didn't understand. Like I thought that I'd come here and have fun, but it wasn't as fun.
Hmm.
So I think most of the time I was just contemplating to myself, like, why am I here? What am I doing? What is the purpose of all this? Like, is it even worth? And at the same time, luckily, I've been blessed. Shanal was already there. Like my elder brother was already there in the college, and we had like Sandesh, Vivek, all our like friends from Bali were already in this institute. So it's not like I was completely alienated. But the reason for me to mingle with my own age batchmates was lesser because I had this whole group in the senior section,
Mm.
right? So I was like, all right, that's great, you know. So I never really got to know my own batch. And then they peer pressured me into joining this dramatics club because
Mm.
they were part of that dramatics club. And they're like, dude, we just go here and do nonsense and whatnot. You should come, totally come. And I'm like, it's a club, right? It's like one of those things that you do on the side. It's fun. Hey, yeah, you know, I do the play and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, cool. I always wanted to like. It's basically uh, me trying to play Mahatma Gandhi again, but in front of a much bigger audience. That's all it is, right? So yeah, that's when I started. Like in my first year itself, um, they had recruitments and they were putting up a show only by the first year, which was the first time they were doing that. Like it was consisted of actors only from first years,
Mm.
and they were like 10 plays, and
Nice.
they said, why don't you like do this one play? And I was like, okay. I wouldn't say I was very nervous, but I was very nervous once I came to know the scale of it.
Mm.
Um, Once I came to know the scale of it, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a competition, isn't it?
Mm.
Because initially they told us it's 10 plays, but then they said there will be awards given at the end. I'm like, oh, now it's gone. Now this is. You should have told me this after the show was done, but they told me before, so I was like, oh, now I'm a little jittery. And the worst part is like I feel like one of the most difficult roles to pull off is that of a normal person
Mm.
because anytime there's a camera or an audience, you tend to overdo it or tend to act. You
Sure.
cannot. So I feel that was the role given to me. I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to get the award for the actor because I'm like, I don't have that great of a character. But I did. And I was very surprised. And I asked them, like I legit asked them, like, hey man, there were better like performances and stuff, but why me?
Mm.
And then the president of the club told me that, listen, if a script and a character is written well and they execute the character, that's great. They're a good actor. But if there's nothing on paper and you added a layer to it, we can see that. So that's why you get this. I'm like, oh, so that's the thing that stuck to me the most. Like if you bring to the screen or to the stage what's more than what's on paper,
Mm.
that should be my goal, right? And make sure that the people are entertained at the end. They're coming there. They hadn't spent their money for that play, but people are spending money to see you, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
important. They should leave with something. So I
Nice.
feel like give them a larger than life experience, even if it's a small retelling of the story. But you have to do that. So I feel like that was the point where in my life I was like, maybe this can work out. So yeah, that's where it started.
That's really interesting, Kunal. I wish I did more drama, and I never got a chance to do this because the university I went to didn't have like a dramatics, and I didn't have peers that pushed me. And I honestly
Yeah,
feel that you know it's
very lucky
interesting.
to.
No, but
Yeah,
it's really interesting you mentioned that I think it's so challenging to actually go in front of an audience and take up a role and actually enact it. And I'm always so intrigued by how actors can remember so many lines and
oh yeah,
not only remember lines, but also, be because you can't really look at the audience and suddenly say that I forgot my line and get out of character, right? So I think that is not a. I mean, you're probably being humble and saying those are things you just acquired along the way, but I think that is a real skill. And I'm curious, Kunal, what were some of the plays you acted in, and what were some of the roles you did
yeah.
in that 4-year period? And maybe as you tell us about these roles, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what each role did to you as a person, and what did you understand about acting while you did all these roles?
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Um, Number one, I'll give you I'll let you in on a secret. You never have to worry about looking directly at the crowd, because
Yeah.
even if you try to, the lights are so bright you can't see anything.
Oh, okay.
So you will never get stage fright.
Nice.
Just make sure, even if you're looking front, you can see just blackness and two bright spots of light, because you can't see anything. So it's fine. You're good. As far as remembering lines goes, in my first play, the lady next to me forgot her lines. I feel like I feel like the best thing, um, lines are not as important. I would say it is very important, like it's a crucial line. But other than that, if you understand what the character's underlying emotion is and what the scene is, you can play around with it because it'll come naturally to you. Because as long as you know that you're this person and the scene has to go this way, your set of lines is just going to correlate to the scene,
Yeah.
regardless of how what the exact line is. So I know my thing is, for some reason I keep remembering people's lines as well. So I think her line was, "What do you do for a living?" And she forgot that, and she looked at me in a way that I knew she forgot it. Luckily, I knew the line, so I remember. Now this is just me bragging a little bit, but I'll take it. I remember she blanked out, and for a second, I paused. I looked away, and then I looked back at her. I'm like, "I'm sure you must be wondering what I'm doing for a living." I thought I saved it. However, this lady, I saw the tube light go. I'm not tube light. I saw the light bulb go out, and she's like, "Yeah. So what do you do for a living?" She asked me that question. I was like, "Oh man!" So I think just being aware is more important than anything else. Even if you've forgotten your line, you can play around, or you can trust your co-actor to get it back on track. So I think a play is like a ship, right? You're just everyone's bringing in their efforts to reach the destination, which is entertaining the crowd in front of you. So I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It might be a challenging for the first few times, but I think plays you practice for months on end, so you get good at it. So when
Nice.
the time comes for a play to be presented in front of a group, a bunch, a theater full of people, you'll be okay.
Nice. But what
Um,
was the role that you played in that particular play, Kunal? Was it something you wrote yourself, or?
no. This was a short play which was like 10 minutes long. It
Okay.
was while the limo waits. I remember this. I was just playing a random person who goes up to this lady who chats up, has a very nice moment, and he realizes this woman isn't actually very keen on love as much. She's interested in money,
Mm.
right, and being well off, and she thinks this person is just being a creep. But once the whole conversation's over, she realizes that this guy's just wasting my time, and I should leave. And she leaves, and she leaves her book behind. And I pick up the book, and the last line of that play was, "My butler comes in and says the limo is waiting. Do you want to return that book?" He's like, "It's okay. She'll come and pick it up." So it's
Mm.
revealed that I was actually very rich, but I just wanted to it's basically that don't judge a book by its cover, like a very on the nose kind of situations
Ah,
going on there.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice fun 10 minute play, because that was just, I think the core essence of that play was the back and forth, and the core message at the end. So it was
Nice.
fine. It was nice. It was a very light-hearted play. But I would say that the roles that I did in college that were very uh, intriguing to me was my last play that I did. Was I played a Kashmiri boy, which was like like I was literally born for this. So but it was during it was called Jinns of Idga. Uh, uh, Abhishek Majumdar is a
Mm.
is a playwright for it, and it's an excellent script. And I was very nervous doing it because we were told that he's coming to watch the play, and I'm like, I can't butcher his work. That
Got it.
is too much pressure.
Hmm.
So I just pretended that he's not going to. I think that relieves you of pressure for a long time. And that journey is about how this kid, all of his friends are, for the revolution that's happening in Kashmir, and they want freedom. They want
Hmm.
it to be their own state. And this kid's like, I don't give a shit. I lost my parents to this. I have a sister who requires special need, special care, and I have to look after my own. Only then will I look after my motherland. I don't care. But his journey goes from that to that of a patriot, because in the midst of all this, because he wasn't there for his friends, all of his friends are butchered, and he isn't, and he realizes the error in his ways, and he said, and his sister tells him that, um, you are the reason they could have succeeded, but you didn't do that. And I could take care of myself. We've always been doing that. So I think there was this whole um, brother sister graph that I've never experienced in my life, because I've never had a sister.
Yeah.
But I've realized that there's this, I think when you play a character that changes his core belief in like a span of 90 minutes or so, I think it makes you question a lot of your models and priorities in life. So I say that was one of the projects that was pre-written and changed my perspective on a lot of things. And the other thing is, the biggest thing in college was, like you said, like in your college, there was no dramatics club or group where you couldn't like really showcase anything, right? So similar, I like plays, like they're fun, but I really like movies more because I had that much of an exposure towards movies when I was a child and whatnot.
And it's also it's also your passion for technology that comes into play here, right? Because you're passionate about acting, but movies actually translates that into a medium that more people can access. So it's interesting how both those passions aligned here, Kunal. No, but go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I was just getting to that. Like, I like filmmaking. I feel like acting is my expertise, but like I said, my what I really want to do is tell stories to the audience.
Sure.
Right. So I feel like plays do that to an extent, which is great. I mean, they do it wonderfully. But with plays, you have like a limited number of audiences, and you have like everything has its plus and minuses. But in my head, film is forever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's etched in my brain what I've watched in the theater, because that's so iconic. It's etched in my brain what I watched in the theater, like when the play is going on. But if I want to watch that scene again, I can.
Correct.
I can't relive that moment again for a play. So I was drawn to film for that reason. And in our college, there was no short film division. So luckily for me, Neeraj and Sandesh, they started the short film division in our theater club.
Oh, nice.
Right, because they shared the same enthusiasm. They were the enthusiasm for filmmaking, because we all love tech. It's the same thing. Their stories are similar. And by the way, Neeraj is a very good actor. I don't know if like a lot of people might not say this, but I know this.
I've actually seen the film about I don't remember the name, but the one with the goat that
Meka.
Meka, yes. I actually saw the film, and I think does Neeraj have a role in that film?
No.
But then
no, it doesn't.
Okay, but still, I think that he was part of that project in some way, right?
Yeah, he's the director.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So he wrote and directed it. I co-wrote it as well, but I would give him more credit because, it was not easy. Like that movie was whatever it was. I think we both know that it could have been much better now, because the problem is when you work for like IIT or a film fest, you are given a certain number of days only. I feel like that kind of puts in a corporate environment. Like you have this deadline, make whatever movie you want in this much time and get it out there. And that's that's like really taking out the, I don't know. Then it becomes
so was this like a competition, like a short film competition?
Yeah. So I'll tell you. Basically, they created the short film division, and we started making we started making short films and sending out to film festivals, and they accepted our entries, and they said, when we have the full film festival, which will be in December, like IIT Bombay told us, IIT Bombay has a clearing round. We sent it to the clearing round. We won there, and then they said, all right, now you can participate. There are only 5 teams that participate in the final round, and we'll give you the topic. You have 1 week to make the entire film and then send it to us. Nice. And we're like, cool. That was when Neeraj, I worked on the project Meka, and we send it to them. We weren't very, very, very happy. We were very happy with how it happened, how it came to fruition. I give all credit to Neeraj because I shot my bit and I went to Bahrain. Neeraj stayed back in Manipal, edited the entire film, at the same time wrote his exams and uh, uh, sent the film. So he juggled a lot. He made a lot of work, right? And I remember this when this project got sent out. I saw the final project. I really liked it. I was very scared that it's a little too vague, which I still think to an extent it is. Uh, but I hope the people get the message what it is about. And I remember this very, 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 very clearly, like it was yesterday. I was in Adlia in Bahrain. I was with Sandesh and Shunal and Pawan and everybody. And Neeraj calls me up and he says, dude, we won. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, apparently all of our friends who were there in IIT Bombay saw the film for standing ovation. We won. I'm like,
and was this
well,
like like a national competition, Kunal? Like, I mean, there were
yeah,
probably a lot of entries that came in for it,
yeah.
right?
So the thing is, around 500 entries were there.
Wow.
So it was kind of a big deal for us because we were like, see, our goal was this is the biggest competition for a student film festival, right?
Correct.
This is the biggest thing. This is the biggest stage for us. So we just want to win like once, like first, second, or third, whatever. We just want to win once there. And we got on the first try, so it was like a huge ego boost. But we didn't really. Luckily, we're very humble people. We were like, it's great that, but now the problem is the pressure is on us because once we go back to college, everybody will want to make short films, and everybody's going to pester us because of this whole situation. Because this whole they wanted more to go on their first try fame because no one from our college had ever done that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I think that's when I realized there's a lot of pressures which you don't really know. And like now every film of yours has to be so good.
Nice.
Like it has to be this thought-provoking, intense, dramatic film. Even if we wanted to make like a stupid movie, like just for pure entertainment, it's funny as well. People will be like, "What has happened to them?" Right?
Yeah.
It's happened to us because we used to make funny videos as well, but they are like, "Oh, why don't you make something like Mega?" We are like, "We don't want to.
Yeah.
We did that. It's over. It's done. Why should we do it again?" But then Mood Indigo rolled around again, and we already had our entry in because we won the last year.
Yeah.
So this time we were like, you know what, we won. Let's experiment. And I remember we made this film. A friend of ours had written. So I didn't act in that because I was too young to play the protagonist. The professor is the protagonist, and I was too young for the professor because it didn't work. But the concept of that movie was so good. It's really dark, but it's really good. It's basically what if professors and disciplinarians were given live rounds, like ammunition, to discipline the children. Like parents have signed off on this, like it's okay if you have to kill a child, kill a child. Make sure you do it right, and our child understands. And there's like this whole uniform agreement from all the parents that has happened.
Wow.
And yeah, so in the entire film, all we do is end up killing students because they misbehave.
Wow.
And we said it in dystopian world and all that, but it was just it's. I'm sure that when it was screened, people have been like, "What is wrong with these kids that they had this thought?" But at the same time, I think the theme was seven deadly sins. I think, but we were like, we're just going to take sin and we're just going to run with it because we don't want to stick to seven deadly because everyone's going to do the same thing. Like so many movies about greed, so many movies about lust. All these movies will be there.
Yeah.
But we want to do different. We're like, it's okay. If we don't win, we don't win. We won last year. It's fine. At least we want this work to be there because it is not thought provoking in the way that you self reflect, but it's thought provoking in the way that if this happened, would it really be or really play out like this?
Interesting.
So yeah, we sent that out. We didn't expect to win it all, but we came second or third. I don't remember. So we were like, I think that's when Neeraj and I realized, like, hey man, I think we're decent in this field of work. I think we should like really incentivize and do this.
That's
and
pretty
that's
cool.
when, yeah, and that's when I realized that maybe this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But at the same time, I can't go to my parents and be like, even though they're very supportive, even though they're very understanding, I don't want to give them the pressure like, hey man, placements are happening in a few months, but I'm not going to sit for it. You know, I don't know how to bring up that conversation. So what we did is the final year, I think I can say this now, the final semester of my college, I faked my internship. I Sandesh was working on a startup of his own called JobSpire, and uh, so he was working on a startup of his own, and I told him, "Can you give me a certificate that I worked there and some project information so I can just present it on my midterm and my final terms?" And he said, "Okay." He's like, "Why?" I said, "Dude, we are planning on starting our ad film agency
Hmm.
because in an engineering college, every other kid has a startup idea, and
Hmm.
every startup idea needs a video to explain to them what their idea is, what their vision is, how they approach investors, and why they should invest in their idea."
Sure.
We had the expertise of making films. We
Correct.
thought we can translate that and make corporate films because it's lesser work because we don't have to write an original idea and a script and a story. We just have to listen to their vision and curate a script accordingly. It's fine. We
Hmm.
can do that. So that's what we did. And we got a little bit of money, and that's when I told my parents that I'm already doing this. So don't worry about it. Like it's fine. So surprisingly to me, they didn't have any uh, you know argument. They were just, I think they knew it was coming because when I kept telling them like I'm doing this play, I'm doing this play, I think in the back of their minds they know like this guy's going to do this.
Yeah.
Let him do it. It's
Interesting.
fine. Yeah. So my parents didn't really say anything, which kind of took me back a little bit because I'm like I expected. Like I'm thinking to myself at that point, I'm like, hey man, if I don't have like a struggle story that my parents weren't supportive and all that shit, what am I going to tell in interviews? Like how then I won't be successful because I don't have like a tragic backstory.
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
that.
No, but
But then,
just to pause there, Kunal, I just want to say that sometimes we take it lightly. I mean, like when you have kids, we obviously don't have children, but it's not very easy for a parent to be supportive, when
yeah,
they
yeah,
invest so many years in the child's education and they want them to take a particular path, and then you come up to them. But I really like how you know navigated that sort of conversation, because you just didn't
yeah,
go to them and tell them you liked acting, right? You actually tried doing a lot of plays, you made
yeah,
short films, and then you converted that into an idea that could actually generate some income, which was an ad film agency.
yeah,
And once you had all these proven projects, that's when you went and had that conversation. A lot of people
yeah,
actually go the other way, where they immediately say,
yeah,
I want to
yeah,
become the next Sachin Tendulkar, I want to become the next Amitabh Bachchan. But I feel
yeah,
like it's important to translate that into something, give them some proof that I'm not just, messing around with this particular thing, but I really am passionate about it. But, just to build on what you're saying, Kunal, tell us about some of the, projects you created in that time. And,
sure.
and, and
Um,
how did the transition to Bombay and, the whole acting
yeah,
thing happened from the agency thing? I'm curious
yeah.
about that.
So actually, from 2016 is the year I graduated. So 2017, the entire year I was in Bangalore.
Okay.
Reason being is because one of the clients we were working for, one of the major clients we were working for, relocated the head of operation to Bangalore. Makes sense. And luckily, we had a place to stay in Bangalore, so we just moved there.
Mm.
And we were doing projects for these guys. Surprisingly, one of them also put us in touch with a corporate head called Nvidia. Nvidia is like a graphic card manufacturing company, right?
Mm.
And they're like they are very very well known in the tech space. And my like for me, what's really weird is I wanted to work with the gaming industry, and I got to work with them because, but not in the way like not in game design, but I still got to work with the same company. So I'm like fascinated how that should work out. And we made like videos with them about their upcoming events and like corporate tech videos, like um, say they had an event organization in Bangalore or something like that coming up. And Nvidia kept posting this on their Facebook page, and somehow Microsoft India saw it.
Mm.
And when Microsoft India saw it, Microsoft India asked us, "Would you like to make an Nvidia Acer, sorry, an Nvidia Asus and Microsoft collaboration for Forza Horizon 3, I think, at that time."
Wow.
So we made a launch video for their internal use
Wow.
for Forza Horizon 3, and it was really fun. We
Nice.
got to work with three big corporations, and seeing this because we made it for a game now. Like I got to work for a game, which was awesome. And seeing this, Ubisoft UK approached us for Watch Dogs 2, and they
Wow.
said, "Why don't you make localized ads for Watch Dogs 2?" And we had a lot of back and forth for it because I think when you climb higher the rank, when you go up and up um, I think your scripts kind of get lost in translation, because something that is a guy and a girl arguing in India
Mm.
is considered a fight over there. So something so normal here, they'll tell, no, 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 it's a touchy topic, avoid. And I'm like, why are you saying this now? We've completely shot the entire thing. So only one or two ads for that Watch Dogs 2 came out on Nvidia's page and Ubisoft India's page. Other than that, not much. And the funny thing is, I got to act in all of them.
Mm.
So God knows where those things are. But if they ever show up, that was the year 2016 or 2017.
Okay.
And yeah, so we made ads writing. I didn't edit any of them. I mostly wrote and acted in them.
Nice.
Neeraj edited and directed. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
But
It was fun.
but
And Bombay,
Kunal, I just to think, do you feel
yeah,
like this process of making films gave you an insight into all the uh, other people involved in bringing a film project together? Sometimes, and this is something because you were not just acting in it, you were also part of the production,
yeah,
direction, filming. And sometimes, when we watch movies and TV shows, we assume, I mean, obviously not everyone does it, but we assume that the actors are the ones, but there's a huge team behind every project, right? So do you feel
yeah,
like this experience gave you that insight into the amount of work that goes into every big film
yeah,
or TV project?
for sure. I think I became a better actor because I know how the behind the scenes work.
Hmm.
Right? I understand. Um, like if I'm writing, I understand. Okay, this is what I have to convey,
Got it.
and the writer has this in mind. So for me to read a script and read between the lines has gotten a little bit easier. A lot of stuff has worked a little bit better because I know how much of a task it is. Like it's a behemoth task that you have to make a film name.
Hmm.
Because see, I know a little bit about the creative process, because even though writers, I was part of the creative team, like writers, directors, actors, but the back end, like the technical team, sorry, not the back end team, the technical team, which is cinematographers and lighting and sound. I kept learning that as I was on this set, but also over there.
Hmm.
But the scale of everything changes, right?
Got it.
So what is for an ad film production, low budget ad film production, is not at all for a TV production, which is
Hmm.
not at all for a film production.
Hmm.
So the scale of it, I'm still learning about it. Like now, not just about the creative side of it, I am learning about the financial side or the corporate side. Like who are the people calling the big shots? Who are the investors?
Hmm.
Who actually has a last call on a certain product? How do they marketing? There's so many strings that work in harmony, and all you see is one movie. But
Right.
the amount of people working, like literally hundreds and thousands of people work behind that for hours on end, months on end.
Hmm.
And I feel like maybe it might seem like a rude, or maybe it might seem like a weird thing coming from me, but I feel like actors are really blown out of proportion.
Hmm.
I mean, see, for sure, granted, they put asses in seats, right? People come to watch them, and
Hmm.
then the movie as well. So I get it, but at the same time, I feel like um, actors are overappreciated and other people are underappreciated. You
Got
know,
it.
that's what I feel like happens.
Like what is,
So
like, based on your experience, like, maybe for somebody like me that's not ever been part of that process, how can we be, when we watch a film, what are some things we should look out for to be more appreciative of the other elements involved in a film apart from just the acting? It's just like a random
I think
curiosity.
two things. I think two things that hit you immediately and have a big impact on your emotion when you don't know
Yeah.
is lighting and sound.
Mm.
That is something that if there is no good lighting, the mood isn't set. The mood isn't set, no matter how much of a perform. Like if I can, it's a very well lit room,
Mm.
um, but I'm doing a very serious monologue. You don't take it seriously because you're like something's off. You don't know what it is, but it's mostly the lighting.
Got it.
Everything, and this is just I'm just saying these are two key things that will stick out like a sore thumb. But everything else, the other thing is like set design. Everything is like everything that you see on screen, other than the actor, has a character in itself. I
Mm.
feel like the place, the setting of a event is very important. The shot composition is very important. Like if I give a Dutch angle to a very straightforward shot, you won't understand. It confuses the audience because they are like, a Dutch angle is like a 45-degree tilt. You just be like, why am I confused? Because it's supposed to induce confusion. If it's supposed to correlate, if it's like it reaches to a story, then fine. But otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. So I feel like this short composition is something maybe you will understand. I'm not sure who does this. Wes Anderson does this the best. He has a very, very crisp short composition. Like you will know for sure which is a Wes Anderson film because it's so symmetrical, right? And that induces like this very calm, satisfying vibe in you because it's like everything's so symmetrical. And then he plays off on that in your emotion. So it's like, I think depending on the director, things change. But I think as a viewer, music and lighting is something, no matter what happens, you will see. Sound and music is like number one. Like,
that's fascinating. Yeah, because and that's something that I also, maybe not just me, but everyone watching this, maybe the next time you see a film, apart from thinking about just the themes or the story, we can actually look out for the amount of effort put into the lighting, sound, and set design, and think about what that tells you about the characters, right? Just building on what Kunal, said. But Kunal, just to segue into, your first two big acting projects last year were by big, production studios, and is it okay if I state the names of the production studios? So I know Imperfect was by Zoom Studios, right? And Sanjivani, which is a very big franchise, was by Star Plus. So, and I remember a conversation we had maybe 2 or 3 years. It was at, I think, one of these Starbucks in the airport or something like that. But you told me, I think you were auditioning for parts at this point of time, and there was this fascinating conversation we had where you told me that what was your secret to get more auditions was you'd go to auditions and you'd talk to other people and they would tell you about other auditions. And just before I wanted to just help us understand, how did you move from this whole agency thing into auditioning and these big projects? And all these shows will be linked in the show notes, so even if you don't have a backstory, it's going to be there. So yeah.
Cool. I'll keep it very short because if you can speak about auditioning for like hours on end. But what I'm going to do is I realized that I've become a corporate seller before even trying to go the traditional route and audition and try to make it in films. So, and Neeraj also had to go back home, and our other writer who was on board, he had to like, his parents weren't very, very supportive. They wanted him to do a higher course degree. So he had to bounce as well. So I was like, you know what? At this point in time, I feel like an opportunity is presenting itself, and if I don't take it, I'm being an idiot. So I came to Bombay after that. Bombay was horrible for the first few months because I didn't know anybody. I was staying alone also, and I had no idea about the city. Luckily, the people here are very, very nice, very, very kind. So after I came to Bombay, I realized that I stayed really far from where auditions actually happen.
Sure.
And I made it a point that if I'm going for auditions that day, I will audition for everything that is going on in that day. And the only way first of all, it took me like 6 months, 4 to 6 months, when you have no idea where auditions happen, how to go about this. It took me 4 to 6 months of random people, talking to random people and random WhatsApp groups to understand where auditions happen and how it goes on. So it takes time if you have no one to help you out with. But once I did, I realized that at least, I've spoken to so many people that I know how the approach is. And everybody, surprisingly, is very keen on helping each other out. So I just asked, man, are you going and giving auditions anywhere else? And then they would just say, yeah, so and so place. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I just show up there because I'll be like, hey, I heard you're auditioning. I heard the character is my age. Is there anything for me? Like, is it okay if it will be of any interest if I audition? And sometimes they say that, we are looking for a certain type of look, or we are looking for a certain build. So at least the point is not to give their audition, but the point is at least to go there and make sure they keep seeing your face so that they'll be like, oh, we can call him. Remember that guy who came that day. So that was the intention. So for a year or so, I did that.
Nice.
before Sanjeevani happened, because that was my entire 2018 was that. 2019 June is when I started shooting for Sanjeevani, and 2020 onwards there is no more auditions like going and auditioning anymore because of the pandemic. So it's all virtual. Luckily, I know enough people that they call me for auditions virtually, so
Nice.
it's fine. Um, yeah, and that's what it's just been that. And what else is the other thing that you want to know?
No, I mean that was basically it. Like the whole
Yeah,
process of auditioning and how. But I'm sure your experience on, because you had so many experienced actors on the Sanjeevani set, and I know a lot of
right.
your fans may even watch this, and it's nice that they get to see the Kunal, before he became Dr. Rahil, right? And that's something that
Right.
I feel would be
Yeah,
interesting for them, is that you actually put so much thought into each role, and they probably understand your in passion for gaming and filmmaking in
yeah,
general. But what was it like, learning from, like, Mr. Bell, is that my
yeah. I know
Mr.
it.
Manish Bell,
Yeah,
Gurdeep Kohli, Namit Khanna, and all these
right.
actors they're all so experienced, and they've done these wonderful projects. What was it like working on that set? And do you
Yeah.
feel like you learn a lot watching other actors, Kunal?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I feel like I was very blessed to be on that set because I was working with very, very talented people.
Yeah.
The leads with Namit and Surbi are really, really very good friends of mine now, and they're very, very talented people. Surbi especially has had done like a very, very popular show as well. I didn't really watch any of her previous work or any of them. I knew Sanjeevani because I think everyone as a child, all of us watched a little bit of this show,
Yeah.
and I think the reason for me even to do that show, because I know TV is a very time consuming thing because you don't have any social life once you take it. It's like essentially a 9 to 5 job, but it's actually a 9 to 9 job,
Hmm.
and you have like no social life, and it's hours on end work for days on end, months on end, and you can basically, it's like creative corporate job. That's what it is, right? And I'm like, I was iffy because of the time commitment, but I was like, you know what? It's a good project. I've practically grown up on this. So many
Yeah.
of us have. It's
Yeah.
knocking on my door. And it's not like I'm my time is running out. I'm relatively young. I should try out,
Yeah.
and I did, and it was like one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Nice.
And yeah, I got to work with Manish Bell, Rohit Roy, Gurdeep Kohli, Shanantini, Surbi, Namith. All these, all of them were like very, very good at their work, right? And I got to like, so there was this demographic that was like the OG Sanjeevani cast, which is consists of Gurdeep, man, Manish Sir, and Rohit Roy, and all those people. And all those people are like, sometimes we were just on set, we weren't having a scene with them, but
Yeah.
we'll just go on set and watch them because we're like, there is this nuances that they do,
Yeah.
and this whole gravitas that they have in their performance, this thing called Hera, which is like just this patient uh, 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 um, aura that they have, that you know that they mean there's weight behind each line of theirs.
Hmm.
So it was just fascinating to just watch because you're like, the more you watch, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more it'll translate into your work. It's I think that's universal for everybody. Like if you observe something or something too long,
Yeah.
you will kind of learn how to do it,
Yeah.
right? Or you'll at least try to. So I think the whole point of acting is just to make an attempt until you're happy with it, because I don't think anything can be discredited as ingenuine if you're making a genuine attempt.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on that topic. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks
yeah,
for that. Kunal, it's really nice because in any profession, even as a teacher, like one of the things I'm doing is I work in a school and I observe a more experienced teacher, you know,
yeah,
practicing the craft. So if you're a young person listening to this, one way to actually learn about your anything you're passionate about, or something that you want to explore further, is look at people that do it really well, and that have done it for a really long time. and
mm,
and that applies across disciplines and across fields, right?
yeah,
And I know you've done a lot of ad films as well, Kunal. Is the process with ad films very different from filmmaking? Is it a lot more
yeah,
focused in terms
yeah.
of?
So with ad films, most likely it's just one day of shoot,
Yeah.
right? There's no such multiple days. You're not really playing a character. You're playing this one person who uses the product. So
Mm,
there's no creativity, I would say, from your side. It's more or less the script and how good it is at conveying that this product is the best, and how well they play with the emotional strings of the customer. Um, there are certain projects, ad projects, that require a good amount of acting. And one of my favorite, like I think the most proud ad project that I've done is for Swiggy. I was supposed to play this delivery boy, and Swiggy had a wonderful initiative that they wanted to tell how every consumer calls their delivery executives Swiggy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you don't call a Reliance or a Kellogg's, or you don't call like just random people that, but with
Yeah.
Swiggy it's fine. So they said they gave two shits about their uh, uh,
Delivery people.
they gave importance to their employees, and they were like, no, we need to set this right, and they took time, effort, and money out of their budget and said, make this campaign. And it wasn't what's in the name, that was the campaign's name. And it's one very beautiful project, one very beautiful script, and very beautiful people, and production house have made it with so much love that you will feel horrible if you didn't do your job well, right? Because that is something that I couldn't have lived with if I didn't do the job well. And that I was so well, it won best ad for the year, I think,
Wow,
and
okay.
best casting. So
Nice.
I took a little pride in that. I didn't get the award, like the casting director got the award, but I'm like, she did cast me, so I'm going to take small win for it. So yeah,
But
it was a really I was very lucky to have gotten that ad, because once I heard the audition script itself, I was like, I really want to do this. I don't give a shit. I don't
nice.
care who I have to kind of like put murder in cold blood. I'll do it. I'll do. I want this script.
Yeah, because
So yeah,
in a lot of ways in that I've seen that ad, Kunal, and I think I saw it
yeah,
on TV, or I must have seen it in some digital platform. But
yeah,
I know that you were representing the voice of all the people that were doing that
yeah,
job across the country, right? So it was a
yeah,
sense of responsibility as well. And these are
yeah,
people that do this day in, day out, and feed their
yeah.
families. So it's fascinating how a simple ad can actually translate to so much social change. And
It's it's wonderful. That's the thing, right? The audition brief was that you go to this, you go with full of enthusiasm because you want to do your job well, and you want to greet these people because you are that nice of a person. You just want happiness, and you just want to like spread joy because you're giving food to people. That's a very joyous line of work. And then all of a sudden they don't even bother you calling by your name, so you're a little disheartened, but at the same time it's not their fault, it's the norm, so you don't say anything about it. So I'm like, I didn't have to think about, even though I didn't put that pressure on myself, like I'm representing the voices of so many millions of employees and delivery agents, because I know that's going to happen, because the ad film company that's making it is going to make sure that happens.
correct.
My job is to make sure that the emotional impact, even if it was a regular person, right? It didn't have to be Swiggy or anything like that. A regular person could connect on.
Mm,
Like, if that happened to me, like I did something nice to someone and they didn't even bother like saying thank you or my name, it just makes you feel weird. So my intention was just that emotional has to be there. That
nice.
impact cannot be lost by any chance. So luckily, I had a very good director, and he told me that this is how we're going to shoot it. And once I heard it, we were on the same page. And once you're on the same page, life is really easy. It's like a couple of takes and you're done. But the dynamic of an ad film is on an ad film set is really weird. There are a
Nice.
few ads that have shot that have never come out,
Mm,
because clients can be like, "Oh, we just don't want to release that anymore." And the other thing is, on a film, on at least on a film set, the final call is the directors. But on an ad set, the director can be present, but it's the client. Like I did this ad for McDonald's in McDonald's Arabia,
mm.
and that ad, I remember I had to eat a burger. I ate it like 38 times,
Oh God.
which is horrible,
Wait, the whole
because
burger?
no, just take a
I like
bite.
to just buy.
But even then, 38 bites is like, I don't know how many equal to how many burgers. But the thing
Yeah.
is, what the problem is that you don't realize is, you see like a really nice juicy burger,
Yeah.
but there's a job called a food stylist, which I had no idea of. They exist. They make the burger look very presentable on camera. So the side facing the camera looks really good.
Yeah.
The side facing me is just plain.
Oh.
because it's filled up with like whatever polished and all that stuff, and this side is just empty because otherwise they'll have to waste so much of food, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't use the same burger; they have to use a fresh piece
Yeah.
all the time. So
Yeah.
just enough ingredients they use, which makes sense, but it's just so I was biting into bread like 38 times, which was like horrible. But we got
Wow.
the shot in like maybe 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
Like in the 6 or 7 take, we had it, and then I remember the next 25 to 26 times, it was just pure torture because the entire cast and crew were just like lying back, sitting, and they're like, "Okay, action, yeah, action." Because the directors told me like I've gotten the shot, so but you have to like please the client on
Mm.
an ad film set, which is, but I get that. It's not like I'm debating it. I mean, the dynamic is different. Uh, I get that because if I was a client, I would want everything to, and I'm spending so much money
Yeah.
on an ad film game. I would want that product to look so good. So I understand it. It's just
Yeah.
that biting into bread 38 times is not pleasant. That's all. Otherwise, I understand. None of us could do anything. It was
Yeah.
fine. It was just like I'm losing the word here, but it's a part of the job.
Sure.
That's all
Yeah.
I was.
And that's something, for a lot of people that may watch this that are interested in, taking up acting professionally, is that, that's something for them, is that, it's okay if you do multiple takes and if you do get the thing at the end. But I really like how you explained how the process is so different in the ad world and the filmmaking
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
And that's something that you need to understand as a professional, how you shift between roles and, be professional in both contexts, right? So
yeah,
Kunal, we've understood what Kunal was like as a student, what you were like at university, the production Kunal, the acting Kunal. But I want to know about Kunal, the film watcher, or the Kunal the Kunal that consumes media, right? Because I
correct,
know you do a lot of that, and you do watch a
correct.
lot of films and a lot of, and I don't know if you're really into plays, but one thing I did when I was in Bombay, I used to go to Prithvi Theatre a lot and watch a lot of
Yeah,
plays.
yeah,
And just a little side note, I remember reading this interview with Nasiruddin Shah where he spoke about how he did about 30 films with the film division of India in the 80s or 90s, and 30 he did a lot of films with them, but about a lot of those projects didn't even come out. So I'm just thinking
correct.
about the life of an actor related to what you said. But my question basically is, Kunal, if you had to recommend um, three movies or three TV shows that you felt had a real influence on you in terms of your development as an actor or simply as a viewer, and what you liked about these three projects that
Yeah.
had such a big impact on you.
Um. All right. It's
I'll give you some time because I think I just put it out
it's a,
there, but
it's a, it's yeah. I feel like every movie I learn something or the other because
yeah,
see, I'm looking at a lens not only from an acting lens. I look at from a filmmaking lens as well, right? Like I
correct.
told you, my whole goal is to entertain people. Right now, it's through acting. Maybe later it'll be through production. Maybe later it'll be through direction. I don't know.
Yeah,
But right now, acting is what gives me. Acting is like the cherry on top of the cake, which is entertainment. So I learned a lot from a lot of films that I've watched recently, but I would say any movie with Meryl Streep is a must watch
hmm,
because she's too darn good at her job and she gets under the skin of the character, which is like insane. So
nice,
I think Devil Wears Prada is a very good movie
nice.
because from an acting perspective, because everyone in that movie did a good job. That's a movie that I recently watched and I was like, oh my god, I've missed out on a lot. Um, One of the movies that growing up I had a big impact in my life was Hindi movie was Hera Pheri
Hmm.
and English movie was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective,
Oh, the
because
Jim Carrey film, right?
Jim Carrey film. Yeah, most
Yeah.
of the Jim Carrey films. Like I remember watching all these family oriented Jim Carrey films, and I loved them. I used to think that I always have a soft spot for comedy because I feel like the world is tragic enough as it is. Let's just take a sigh of relief and like go into a film, laugh, forget the world that is outside, and then go back rejuvenated back into it. So for me, comedies are mostly the movies that will always have like a special place in my heart. But other than that, acting perspective also, I feel like how Jim Carrey always does slapstick comedy, but he still keeps it in a real zone is like unparalleled. I haven't seen that in any performer after that. Meryl Streep is really good. And honestly, I I remember that um, I think my favorite male actor. I don't have favorites because I feel like that's just unfair.
Yep. Yep.
But one person, if even if I achieve 2% to 5% of his range, I'll be happy. I don't want anything more. Is Gary Oldman.
Hmm.
I think that guy can do anything.
Nice.
I've I've I remember watching The Darkest Hour in theaters, and I was taken aback. I'm like, if he doesn't get an Oscar for this, and he did. I'm
Was
so
he
glad.
was he Churchill in that film?
Yeah, he was.
He
He
was
was.
he was Winston Churchill, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was. So I was like, there is no way. There is no way because it's just he's under the skin of that damn character.
Yeah.
I know how he is, right? How the actor is, and I know how Gary Oldman talks. And then I remember, I think he said for Sirius Black that he did the accent. No, for Sirius Black it was fine. I don't know which movie that he said that he did the accent for so long that he forgot his natural accent,
Hmm.
and then he had to get a dialect coach to get his real accent back, which
Wow.
is fascinating to me. But my point is, Leon, he's just an incredible work. So I would suggest watching three you asked, right? I would say watch Hera Fairy because
Okay.
that is an Indian classic film and it just has the perfect first, second, and third act. And you have this whole redemption for three characters.
Hmm.
Um, it's amazing, right? I like the second part, but the first part has its own charm.
Yeah.
Second movie would be
Devil Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada, and third movie would be you know
The Darkest Hour.
no, I would say Leon. Just watch Leon
Leon. Okay.
because he's Leon the Professional. Because Gary Oldman in that is just too darn good. But that's the thing, right? I can't choose three movies. This is three for now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean, it's obviously gonna change over time.
yeah, it changed. It's subjected to the time of the day.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what's in my mind right now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This
All three
was.
are, yeah.
No, I'm gonna put the links to the trailers of those films in the show notes, Kunal. So
Yeah.
thanks for that. And Kunal, thanks. Like you've been so generous with your time. I'm sure you, but
Oh man, come on.
but what I wanted to end this interview with was just for you to I know with the pandemic, mental health is something that a lot of us are dealing with on a daily basis. As an actor, I'm curious about like anything you have or any piece of advice you have to share with other actors that are in the same space trying to look for roles during the pandemic, and maybe that could be like a positive note to end the
Yeah.
interview.
Um. Yeah. So what I realized, like I've gone through that trope myself, that I'm like, oh man, I'm just not getting work and whatnot. But I realized something that the entertainment industry, film industry, has been here for decades and it will
Mm,
be there for decades. And there will always be stories to tell. There will always be roles that you can do no matter what age you're at. So there's nothing to worry about. There's not going to be shortage of work. You have to be just patient. I think the most important thing in our line of work is work on yourself, work on your skills, but more than anything, be patient. I
mm.
put it this way. Um, my line of work is like a Mumbai auto. Most of them will reject you, but eventually there's always one around the corner that will take you to your destination. So I feel
That's
like that's the best way to put it.
Oh, that's such a good way to end this show. And
Yeah.
Kunal, best of luck for everything you do. And
Hey,
as
thanks. Yeah.
and for all the viewers watching this show, I'm going to be linking Kunal's YouTube channel. I highly recommend
That's very kind.
subscribing to it and
Uh,
following all his work there, but also seeing the projects he's worked on, including Sanjivani, Imperfect, and all the ad films also in the show notes. Thanks, Kunal, and thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so much, man. It's been really, really, really fun. Good to catch up with you also after so long, man. It's really, really good.
Yeah, same here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just stop recording.